I met both of them and I chose one, Molly Friedrich. And she said, okay, here's the game plan. I'm going to send an editorial letter out to 14 publishers along with your manuscript, and we should hear in about 2 weeks. That was on a Monday. The next day, Tuesday, in California, it was 8:30 in the morning, 11:30 in New York. The phone rings. My kids were this big. The parakeets were flying around. My husband was riding his freaking bicycle in Venice, and my agent says, you have 4 offers.
Wow.
Everyone in New York had stayed up all night to read North of Montana. And so, but the main offer to deal with was a preemptive offer, which means that they offer you more money than they think you'll get elsewhere, but only for a limited amount of time.
Right.
So she said, you have 45 minutes to decide whether to take this offer, which was for a lot of money. 45 minutes.
Good.
Or it goes off the table.
That is a remarkably preemptive offer.
Yeah.
I thought surely you got at least 24 hours.
Oh, no. No. And so I had to make this decision. So I talked to the editor-in-chief of this publishing house. And she said exactly what you said. This is a wonderful book. I will make it a bestseller if you change the last third of it so that these following things happen. And what she described to me was not my vision of the book. So I hung up from her, got back on with my agent, and she said, well. I said, you know, she's asking me to make changes that I don't want to make. And I went back to what I said before, which was ground zero, which was I wrote the book I want to write, and I want it to be published, but I want it to be published the way I envisioned it. I didn't write this over 5 years to get network notes. She said, are you passing? I said, I guess I'm passing. She said, okay, because now I can tell you, you have another offer from Sunny Mehta at Knopf, not for as much money, but it's Sunny Mehta, and why don't you talk to him? So I talked to him on the phone. This is all taking place within like an hour and a half.
While your husband's off on his bicycle.
Yeah, he finally came in with bicycle togs, you know, what's going on? And of course, Sunny Mehta's vision was completely different. He said, you know, the last third of the book does need work, but you have it already in the characters. It's all in the characters. I hung up with him, called my agent. She said, well, I said, I'm in love. That's it. Let's go with Mr. Mehta. And I've been thrilled ever since. So the point is, you keep to your vision, but you're open to the right kind of input that will make your vision more clear to people. And that's been my experience. Now, when I met with Sunny, and he came out here, out to California, and we met at the Bel Air, and we didn't know each other. And he started, it was, you know, kind of awkward. He started telling me his detailed reactions to the manuscript. And I took out a yellow pad and started taking notes, and he was astounded. Because as you say, with most authors, they don't want to hear it, they're afraid of it, they're defensive, they're whatever they are.
I think maybe they're just in love with it.
Or they're in love with it, or they're invested in it. But it was completely natural for me to take notes because that's what you do in television. Whether it's with a producer or a network or another writer or staff, you are used to a collaborative effort. And he was amazed, and I said, you know, you're the best editor in the world. I am privileged to be sitting with you. I want to know what you think. It's a gift to me. So again, that was sort of a benefit from working in television. It was already getting your butt beaten up a million times. So that you're so grateful when the input is good and positive and intelligent.
I can really see that. I've noticed that authors who come from a background, first-time authors who come from a writing background, oftentimes reporters, journalists, not necessarily from a script standpoint, they approach writing as a job. You know, I mean, it's an art, but it also is a job. And it doesn't terrify them because they've already been there, done that, and they can see that it won't be the end of the world as they know it if they have to make some changes, you know, do something different, whatever it all is. And in fact, sometimes it might be better, you know, maybe not. And I agree with you that it's probably essential that the author's hews to his or her own vision. I mean, how sad to wind up publishing a book that isn't the book that you wanted or the story you wanted to tell.
Right.
But at the same time, the way you've told it, while it may be clear to you, may not be
clear.
I often find, that's why I still have an editor for my newsletter. 11 years together we have been, and we talk to each other in this weird shorthand. But even writing something as simple as a book review, it's very easy to muddle up. you know, and it's very helpful to have somebody say, I don't get it.
Right.
What did you say?
Right.
Because otherwise, you know, I wouldn't realize it wasn't working.
Exactly, and you know, your newsletter is quite substantial in the sense that it is like a compass for people. It's a very valued, you know, instrument to tell people what to read and what the opinions are. It's very, very well put together. I'm very appreciative of it. Having been featured in it this last month was just an enormous, you know, honor. And so it's working with your editor because this is not just, you know, some brochure. This is really important in the world of mystery. So I think we all need feedback. We all need to get out of our heads.
Absolutely. I don't care how good you are. I think, I remember Ruth Rendell once said to me at my third consecutive meal in one day with her, which was probably a challenge for both of us. She has no small talk, zero small
really?
talk. So she's really, you have to be just, you know, every minute. But at one moment, in attempting to make some idle chit-chat as a little relief and all, I said something to her which didn't seem odd to me, along the lines of, you know, how did she find it different working with an American editor than with her British editor? And she looked at me, you know, sort of freezing, and said, I have never edited, she said. I send in my, you know, my disc, maybe it was TypeScript some years back, and that's it. And I thought to myself, you know, I didn't say it aloud because I didn't want to be served as the main course there, but, but I truly thought to myself, you know, what a shame. I really don't care how wonderful you are, you know, Ruth Rendell or not, you still need someone else, I think, to look at your work and say, maybe this isn't, you know, I mean, maybe they'll just give you praise, which is good.
Which is good.
But, you know, there really may be some things that don't work as well. And in fact, well, as between us and all our viewers, I think she would benefit from editing in some respects, and I think everybody does. So, you know, your discussion is certainly, I think, a very good one for anybody watching who might be a novice writer. But so much for all that. What's North of Montana about? Where did the idea come from? How did you decide this was the story you wanted to write?
North of Montana? Well, North of Montana is about a woman FBI agent
whose name is Anna?
Anna Gray, and she's based in Los Angeles. And I guess I was inspired by having done Cagney and Lacey, having worked with the idea of a woman law enforcement person. I didn't want to do cops. I didn't want to do street cops. I want to do something a little more, you know, white collar and intellectually interesting. So I went to the FBI, and I got access to the FBI and made a lot of friends there. And the more I got into it, the more fascinating the world was. The book is called North of Montana, which is my neighborhood in Santa Monica.
Montana is
it's
a street.
Yes. South of Montana are apartments and single families and single parents. And north of Montana, the bigger houses, the more conservative establishment.
Is this like an old Los Angeles neighborhood?
Yes, it is, except of course it's getting retooled, unfortunately, where, you know, terrible mini mansions are being built and wonderful old bungalows are being torn down.
Right.
But Anna Gray grew up in that neighborhood when it was funky and real, and she has a whole lot of memories from it. And then the case that she gets involved with, which involves a female movie star who is addicted to prescription drugs, that is the landscape where the case takes place that she's investigating. So both worlds come together for her, north of Montana. And I was fascinated with this character, Anna Gray, who is biracial. She looks white, but she is really half Hispanic, and that's part of her self-discovery, as well as the discovery of what the case is all about, in a sort of demographic that fascinates me: new money, fast money, people whose values are a little bit skewed, in my opinion. Things happening too easily and people being very greedy for the next, the next, the next. That contrasted with real pain in life that people are trying to escape from with all these, you know, narcotics of money and possession, was a great arena. And Anna's inner pain, just like Cassidy Sanderson's Inner Pain and Be the One, my other book, was kind of the motivating factor for me to keep exploring what that's about, in contrast to this very self-assured world that, of course, is full of potholes.